I have something exciting to share before we dive into this week's episode. On September 10th, I'm teaching a free live class called How to Build Trust and Safety in Yourself, even when it feels like anxiety has taken over. Here's the thing, this is the piece so many people are missing in their recovery. And honestly, it's why I struggled for so long too. I didn't know how to feel safe in my own mind and body. And without that foundation, everything else I tried felt shaky and hard. So, in this class, I'm going to show you how to actually build that trust and safety so panic and anxiety stop controlling your life. There are two times you can pick to join from, and if you can't make it live, no worries, I'll send you the replay after. To sign up, simply head to the link in the show notes or head to ahealthypush.com/trust. I can't wait to see you there. I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of A Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Okay, I'm having another really lovely conversation with a past Panic to Peace student of mine, and I always get so excited. These episodes make me so happy because I know how helpful they are, and I just think and I'm like, if I could have hit play on something like this back when I was struggling, I would have been like, "Dang, like, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. Like, this is stuff that people are dealing with." So, I'm always so happy to sit down and have these conversations, and this student of mine took the program January 2025. Well, signed up January 2025. We started in February. So I'm so excited. She's like fresh out of the program, has had a few months. We're recording in August. So I'm just really excited for you to meet her and hear her story. And yeah, so Louise, welcome to a Healthy Push podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I should have said you're in Australia, so I'm recording at night. It's early morning for you. Like, to make this stuff work is just always so cool, and, like, I'm glad that we were able to figure it out because the time zone difference is mental.
Me too. Me too.
So, let's just start. Like, I'm curious to hear, when did anxiety pop up for you? Because it's either I hear it's been with me forever, or I hear it's new. Like, I didn't expect it. It kind of popped up out of nowhere. So, what is your beginning with anxiety?
So I first started having panic attacks when I was about 19. I'm nearly 45 now, so that's a long ass time. I had always had them, but I would say it only really became a huge problem for me about 10 years ago.
Which is another common experience. Like, I did pretty okay for a while, like, even though anxiety and panic was on the scene, but kind of at some point, like, shit hits the fan. So, can we go back and just start with, like, when you had that panic attack really early, like, you're essentially a teenager, young adult, what did that look like? Like, did you know what it was? Did you know what was happening?
I had no idea what was happening to me, and I kinda just I didn't really talk to anyone about it, kept it to myself. I think my sister was, like, the only person who knew. And I guess I just always had this thing of sort of plowing through everything. I was just kind of ignoring it and kept going. It was that time when I'd first moved out of home, going through a lot of changes, and just kind of probably felt pretty lost. And it wasn't, I think we're so much more aware now. This is what, 25 years ago. It wasn't a huge discussion back then.
No. And it's crazy. You think about it and you're like, "Why?" And Back then, I mean, it was, "Here, go to therapy, get medication, and voila, that's it."
That's it. And not even, I would say, like, it just wasn't even a conversation at all. It didn't even occur to me that I could get that kind of support, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think maybe I was a little sheltered as well, but yeah. So it was just kinda something through my 20s that I just kind of dealt with on my own. And then, started to get a bit more awareness, spoke to people about it, saw a doctor, uh, actually worked in the mental health sector, so kind of was learning a lot, but didn't real and sort of half trying to apply it to myself, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, when you're working in it, like, living in it, it's so different. You're not really, like, thinking of how can I then take this and apply it to my own life, and it also doesn't mean because you have a lot of information and education that, like, allows you to then fix your relationship with anxiety. Like, sometimes it's like you can know all the things and still not really know how to do the work.
That's it, and I would say it was like that too much information was a bad thing for me because I was getting the wrong kind of information, and looking back, I cringe, I was trying to support other people that had anxiety. I'm like, the stuff we were working on, hopefully they got something out of it, but it was all about strategies, and looking back, that was one of the things that kept me in that place. Too much.
Yeah, too many, like, practices, techniques, hacks, like, different things to do, and then you end up doing it all, and you're like, okay, I'm doing all the things, and, like, I'm still having the anxiety and panic, so what next? Like, what do we or what's wrong with me, right? Like, why does this keep happening? I can't seem to fix it."
Yeah, and then it becomes, "There's something wrong with me because I can't make this work." I was doing everything looking back, the journaling, yoga, meditation, and it just was not working for me. I was just digging in.
Yeah, so you had that sort of approach when you were younger, right? Like, in trying to sort of fix your relationship with anxiety, which looks a lot like when we're younger, trying to just get rid of it. So it's not really fixing it. I guess take us through. Like, so you had the experience of panic and like how long did it sort of hang around? What did that look like at that time?
It was always there, but it would just kinda ebb and flow based on what was going on for me at the time. So, looking back, I can see times when I'd be really stressed, I'd have a lot of panic attacks. Again, didn't really understand what was happening. I remember feeling that real hypervigilant sensation of walking around and feeling like everything was kinda coming at me. So, I was always kinda just dealing with it, again, plowing through. I had a lot of sort of stress and things going on in my late 20s, early 30s. And then I still remember when I had that first real big one. I was in a meeting and had that, like, feel like you're going to die kind of, just the room spinning, that real flood, adrenaline flood, like teeth chattering, shaking, so dizzy. And again, I kind of just hit it, somehow managed to get through what I was doing, got out into the car and just, lost it. And that was when it became a huge problem for me, when I started really fearing having the attacks and became really, looking back, kind of obsessed with not having another one like that. And that went on for years and years. Somewhere along the line, I kind of started to be a little bit more in line with the approach that you take. I was reading a lot of, is it Claire Weeks?
Yeah,
Claire,
yeah.
yeah. Reading a lot of that kind of stuff and starting to understand that, okay, maybe I need to take a different approach to this, but didn't really understand how to do it. So it kind of got to a lower level for a long time, but it was just always there, always still trying to get rid of it, and getting that real frustration with myself of, why isn't this working? I'm trying to, accept my symptoms and do all these things, and it's still not working. And then I found your podcast last year. I was actually on a trip and I was so annoyed that I was still having panic attacks when I was on holiday. And so I remember just that, desperate thing of coming back to the hotel room and sort of looking for something to soothe myself. And that's when I found your podcast.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So, I mean, this is such a common experience. I feel like this is the majority of the people I work with. Like, I've had anxiety for a long time. I've been dealing with panic. It sort of comes in waves. It's really like directly correlated with stressful events or just even good happy events, like just too much, right? Sort of triggers a whole lot of anxiety and panic. So when you were going through all these waves and having the times where like things were really hard and you were having a lot of anxiety and panic, were you sort of just still pushing through, like not really limiting, restricting, like you were still going to work, you were still going out, or did it change that stuff for you?
No, and that was, I think, what one of the most frustrating things for me is that, there's that conventional wisdom around if you avoid things, it's gonna create further anxiety, all that kind of stuff. So I always had this drive to keep going, but everything was hard. So one of the ways it shows up for me, and I became really obsessed with this symptom, was like this choking sensation when I'd go to restaurants and things like that. I was still doing it, but every time I went to a restaurant, I felt that kind of really intense anxiety, would be trying to hide it, trying to sort of spend time with friends, but it was just always there. So that for me was one of the hardest things about it was just how entrenched it felt, and I felt like I was doing all the right things, but it still wasn't going anywhere, and I remember thinking, like, "This is just something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life." It's just, that I'm just an anxious person kind of thing. All the support I was getting was kind of telling me the same thing as well. Through the years, I saw doctors, I saw psychologists, and was always getting that same message. So I thought, if I keep exposing myself to these things, it's going to go away. I had looking back, no radar as well for when I needed to rest or when I should take a break. It was just,
Mhm.
I've just got to keep doing it and it'll go away.
Yeah.
And I would just do it no matter what and could not understand why all those things weren't helping.
Yeah, I feel like I'm looking at me right now and listening to me, and it's just so wild. It's like you really do carry this mentality of like, this must just be who I am. Like, anxiety must just be, right? Like, a part of my makeup. Like, this is just something that I really can't control. And when you get all of that outside messaging of like, yeah, you just sort of have to manage it and like live with it and figure out how to live with it, you're like, okay." Like, so I'm just always gonna feel, like, on edge everywhere, always worried about having a panic attack, like, always feeling like I am really struggling to do just the most mundane, easy tasks every day, like, this cannot be it. And yeah, I think you do think if I keep doing it, right? If I just keep doing the things, but I'm sure you had that same experience as me. You're going to work, you're doing the things, you're going out with friends, it's still showing up. And it doesn't matter how much exposure you're doing, like the panic is still happening. So it's like, okay, clearly this is not just the thing, right? That's going to fix this.
It's almost like I would set up things, so, like, for a while, it was, "Okay, if I go to the movies, I'm gonna have one." So the first half an hour of a movie, I would just be, like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm shifting around in my chair, just, like, doing everything to try and calm down, and then that would, after a while, that would go away, so I'd be like, "Okay, I've conquered the movies. What else am I gonna
Yeah.
kinda be?" But it would just shapeshift, it would just move to a different trigger and a different kind of place, and then I would just be repeating the same thing all over again. It would always be something new and different.
Yeah, and then it sucks because you tend to look at that as, like, I'm getting worse because it is showing up in more places and in more situations, but it's like, it's not getting worse. It's not the place, the situation, doesn't matter where it shows up, right? It's, like, how you are responding to it when it shows up. If you're actually taking care of yourself, if you're actually supporting yourself, like, you can't just exposure your way through anxiety like that. If it worked, right, so many people wouldn't be struggling. So, okay, so you've had, like, so many of these waves of, like, "Okay, I'm okay, and now I'm not okay." Like, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic. Is there a point in which stuff is just kinda like, "Okay, this is really unbearable, I can't take this anymore," or it's just, like, this slow build of, "Okay, I'm sick of being on this roller coaster?"
A slow build. I think a lot of things in my life were kinda getting better. It was that thing where I'd, like, have a relationship that I'm really happy in, work was kind of all figured out, on a career path that I really like, bought a new house that I love, and it was like that, but it was like that thing of, there is something really wrong with me, and I can't enjoy so many of the things in my life the way I want to. It was that midpoint last year, and then at the start of this year, I was like, I just really wanna move past this. I just really wanna fix this. I don't wanna go through the rest of my life like this. I think I was listening to your podcast about the program, and I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna give it a try." Like,
Yeah.
I was skeptical, of course, because I tried so many different things, but I was just like, I'm just gonna try it. And my partner reminded me of this. I'd forgotten that I had said to her on New Year's, and this is probably an example of, like, setting up unrealistic goals. I said, I'm gonna fucking beat this year, like,
Yep, this
that's
is the
it."
year. Yep. I mean, it's just so funny, right? Because we do like you I mean, I'm so glad you arrived at this point, right? Where you're like, all right, enough is enough. Like, I can't keep doing this. I don't want to keep riding this roller coaster. Like, get me off of this dang thing. But we do. We set these really like ridiculous goals and expectations of like, all right, this is the year that I do it. And it's like, how many years have you had of battling anxiety and going up against it and really not meeting it with any sort of compassion or curiosity or kindness? And you're like, okay, this is the year though. And it's just another way that you're like resisting it and trying to fight it, which is just like, okay, well, that was silly. But of course, we all have these moments. We're human.
That's right, and it's you will do anything to get rid of it when you're in it. That's the problem, like, you would do anything, and I would say that for years. I would do anything. I would put myself through all this discomfort to try and kind of beat it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this because when I was younger, I had quite bad insomnia, and then I read this book about how all the strategy you just need to throw out all the strategies, um, and I did it, and it worked, and I couldn't believe that it worked.
Yeah.
So when I was kind of starting this, I did have that confidence of, "Oh, this is the exact same thing. I am creating this problem." Well, I'm not yeah. I am kind of contributing to it with how I'm trying to help myself. So,
Right.
you know, it's kind of that logical thing of, if that worked, maybe this could work, and that helped a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it is insane when you look at different things and you're like, okay, like, yes, I am clearly fighting this. I'm clearly just trying to make this go away. I'm trying to throw anything and everything at it. And maybe I need to just like do less and stop trying to get rid of it. But that in and of itself seems so simple. Like, that's too easy, but also the hardest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah, it's really sad that the harder you try, the worse it's gonna get.
Yeah, like, so many people that I work with, and you can probably relate to this, is, like, the majority of people that come to me are people who are, like, the people who get shit done, like, they're achievers, they've done really big things, they used to not just, like, work-wise, I think people's brains go there, but it's just, like, they've traveled a lot, they've really explored a lot, they have done a lot of, like, inner work, and yet, like, they're still really struggling, and it's because we try to, like, take all those pieces, right, that we're really good at. Like, we're good at problem solving, we're good at fixing, we're good at doing, and then we try to apply that to our emotions, and our emotions are like, excuse me, I'm not here to be fixed. I'm here to be felt. So can you stop now?" But it is so hard to pull back on doing when you've been doing that for so long.
100%. That emotion stuff for me has been a huge part of feeling a lot better this year. And again, in all the stuff that I thought I knew, I did not understand how much I was trying to control my emotions, my everything about my world, and everything about every situation when I was feeling anxious. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the missing piece. That stuff about anxiety being an emotion, I really did not understand that. It's funny, even with everything I knew, it felt like something always felt like something that was coming from outside of myself.
I can relate to that so much. I remember thinking, like, this cannot be just anxiety, right? Like, and this cannot be just like, I have to learn how to be okay with this and like give it more space. Like, there is something really wrong with me because, like,
Always, always.
how does your body respond like this? Like, how do you have these symptoms, like these really real symptoms and these really real things, these massive fears that are showing up if nothing's wrong? I'm not letting myself feel. And that's such a massive part of it. Not to say it's all of it, but like when you realize that, you're like, okay, maybe I do need to look at this a little bit more. So I'm curious because when you signed up for the program, obviously you knew like you're in Australia, the time difference is insane. You knew you probably wouldn't be able to make it to a lot of the live sessions, but you were like, I'm still going to do this. Like, I'm just curious, how are you feeling going into it? Because that is such a big thing I hear, of course. Like, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to make it to every session. Like, I'm afraid what it's going to look like. And what was sort of that thing that was just like, whatever, I'm going to try it, I'm going to do it.
It was because I'd found the podcast so helpful and I had trust that I thought the structure was gonna help me no matter what. I was like, "If I can't make it to the sessions, there's all this other stuff I can do." And I remember getting the schedule. It was a pretty early in the morning for a lot of my sessions, but I was like, "I'm just gonna do it no matter what." And I would get up, get a cup of coffee, do the session, and then go to work. Yeah, I think that feeling like I was doing something was a big part of it. And
Yeah.
I had initially thought about doing the self-paced one, and I think that would have worked fine for me as well, but I think one of the things that really helped was meeting the group. So,
Yeah.
even though I couldn't come to a lot of the later sessions, I met the group at the start and kind of came to enough sessions that I felt that sense of connection so that even when I was watching the videos and stuff later, when I couldn't come to every session, I kind of felt like I was there anyway. Before I started, I didn't know if it was gonna work, but probably after, like, the first 2 sessions, and I remember I didn't actually come to the second session, I watched it on video, and I just cried the whole time because
Oh,
it was about emotion stuff. I was like, "Oh, I'm glad I wasn't on that call actually, because I couldn't hold my shit together." But that was when I was like, "I am gonna get something tangible out of this, I feel like I am." And then by the time I got to the end, I was like, "It's okay if I can't make it because I'm still gonna get something out of it."
it really is like that when you show up to at least 1 or 2 sessions, I think people immediately kind of immediately, I wanna say, because they hear that feedback, like, they feel that sense of connection, that trust, that, like, "Okay, this is something that's actually gonna be helpful." The first 2 calls are usually welcome calls, like, you meet everyone in the group, you meet me, like, we just sort of talk, but that first session, we kind of immediately, like, dig in, and, like, I don't waste any time, it's like, "Let's get into it," but I think your experience, right, is so spot on because you did get that sense of, like, connection and, "Okay, this is gonna be helpful," but you also were like, "And I need to show up for this every single time, like, whether I can be there live or not," and that's the piece, like, that people need to keep in mind, right? Like, whether you can show up live or not, it's gonna be just as helpful. Of course, it's nice to be live and in group with everyone there, but, like, you're gonna get just as much out of it because it's really about how much you are putting into it.
Yeah, and I was posting a lot. I felt that sense of, like, I know who these people are. I've kind of met them, so I felt a bit more comfortable doing that. I remember watching this second session, and it was all about, anxiety as an emotion and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, I think it was like a big grief outpouring of, like, what I'd dealt with the last decade or so because I just had not allowed myself to
Mm.
think about how sad I felt that that had happened and that I felt like I'd lost a lot. And I remember sort of, yeah, just kind of putting a few things together and then getting on the community afterwards and posting and sort of dumping everything that I, was thinking. And I remember there was a few people that sort of came on and posted straight away. I'm not cry in front of people, kind of very private, don't really show a lot of emotion in public. So that was a really big thing for me, but I instantly felt like it was okay. These people get it.
Yeah, what you just said, right? People often don't realize this when they come into panic to peace, but it comes up inevitably in so many people, this grief and the fact that they've never really let themselves have that and have this sadness and sort of never even really sat with that feeling. And so I always say, like, so much of the work that we do in panic to peace is in relation to anxiety, but a lot of it is not that direct, like, we're going at it, we're trying to do stuff with it. Like, a lot of it is these other emotions and other experiences and other things that we also need to look at that helps to heal that anxiety. Because grief and anxiety are so intertwined. And when you start a program like this, right, it sort of sheds light to the time like that you've spent struggling. Like you hear all these people's stories, you're sitting with your own story and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I have had so many years of this or months and so much experience with this and I've never really even let myself be with that." And this is such a common experience that like people will have so many emotions and I'm like, "Yes, yes." Like it makes me so happy because it's like you don't let yourself stop, like a lot of people, right? You don't let yourself stop and really be with that and really recognize that that stuff is even there, and, like, a lot of the anxiety comes from so much emotion being stored and not being felt, and not just anxiety. Like, this goes back to, right, like, you can't just expose your way out of feeling anxious. There's so much more to it.
That's right, and that I had heard self-compassion, self-compassion for so long. I'd done all those sort of meditations and things, but it's like if you're not really applying to yourself, it doesn't mean much. Like, you have to actually do it, which it can feel like the hardest thing in the world. And I think I also had a lot of anger as well, that you think you're facing it. Like, I would journal and, I would write pages of what I thought was kind of going on, but it wasn't really getting.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Because a lot of the stuff that we're taught and, like, told to do that will be helpful, stuff like journaling, I never, like, wanna, kind of shade those things 'cause, there's so many tools that can be helpful. They're just not things that I teach within the program, and, it's not that I don't think that those don't have a place, they do, but I think so much of what we've been doing, like, when people come to me and what I did for years was, like, I have done all that stuff, right? And it's sort of just another mechanism to not have to be with the really hard stuff. And so you tell me, like, journal, meditate, change your diet, exercise, do all these things. Like, I'm going to check all the boxes, but I am missing a massive piece of this. And it is like allowing yourself to be with all the really hard stuff and having that compassion for all the really hard shit that you've been through. Like, that is so necessary.
That's right, and, one of the things that surprised me when I think about it since I did this program is I do cry a lot more, and it feels
Mhm.
really strange, but it's like I feel this almost, like, proud of myself, like, I was really stressed and overwhelmed, and I got in the car and cried, and that's just never been something that I would every now and then, but
Yeah.
not much, honestly. There are so many people in my life that would have never seen me upset or cry, like, and I've always kinda it's hard when you kinda get a bit of, positive feedback for that, like, "Oh, you're always so calm, you're always so chilled out," and it's like, "No, I'm not," and then you feel like a total fraud, and that becomes part of it as well, like that feeling
Yeah.
like you're faking your way through so many things.
And I mean, we all like we have so many learned behaviors. We have so many things that like we've just carried and we've gone about things a certain way for years or decades. And it is really hard to like do things differently. And I think that's such a big piece of this is like you're coming into a program that's really teaching you like how to approach yourself very differently and your experiences and your emotions, of course. And all of that is so big. Like it's so massive. And I think that's just the difference, right? Is it's like, I don't know, I hope that people see this and sense this, right? That like my program is not, I'm not teaching you hacks and fixes and like all that stuff. Like we're going to actually get at the root of this relationship with you and your relationship with your emotions. And like, we're going to heal this stuff because this stuff needs to be healed. Otherwise, you're going to keep riding that roller coaster that you don't want to be on anymore.
That's it, and that I really don't think I understood how much it had affected my whole view of myself and my confidence. If you're walking around feeling like there's something really wrong and broken with you all the time, and it's just that background noise all the time, every day, why can't I fix this? I knew that I lacked confidence in some ways, but I didn't really understand what it was doing.
Yeah, same. And not really understanding like the impact rate of the beating yourself up and putting on faces and just, like, pretending and not asking for help, like, all of these things make things so much harder. So, I'm curious because we've talked about so much, but, like, going through the program, what would you say are, like, the things that you really found to be, like, this has like caused me to move differently. And this has really helped me to get like more relief and not continue to be on this roller coaster.
The stop digging thing was one of the biggest things for me because it is you constantly searching for, "Why am I like this? What's wrong with me?" And that was so freeing, that idea of, like, I don't have to keep trying to figure out why all the time. You know, every time I would have an attack in a new environment or feel really nervous, it'd be like, What was it about that situation?" And constantly trying to figure it out and rationalize it. And that is so exhausting. So I would sit there each session and write out all these notes because being a
Yeah.
doer, it's, but it did actually really help. I would say also the idea of how I would approach exposures. I think I remember you saying like it's you can't just put in exposures and get out. You go about your ordinary everyday life and carry it with you. So that change in mindset kinda helped me a lot, and that idea of not focusing on individual symptoms as well, because I had come to think just felt completely inevitable. It was just always gonna happen, and then the idea of like, "Oh, no, it's not the situation, it's how I'm approaching it," that kind of mental shift really helped me. It actually wasn't very far into the program that I started noticing a lot of changes with some of the situations that I'd always had anxiety in. I'd be like I'd just feel this weird disbelief when I came out of it because I was still doing the even though I was understanding that, okay, one of the things I'm doing is scanning my body all the time and all this stuff. Of course, I was still it's like I found that
Yeah.
really hard to switch off. I still do it,
Yeah.
but I would be so shocked that it was a much lower level. The whole safety behavior thing, I did not get that before I started, like, and when I stopped and looked at all the things that I was doing, it was really kind of funny and confronting, and knowing that a lot of other people were doing the same things helped a lot.
Yeah, this is why I say, like, if I could go back, if I had had something like this when I was struggling, I can't even imagine what it would have done for me because it's like to hear other people. Like, I remember being with my therapist and saying, like, you got to tell me that somebody has the same fear. Like, you got to tell me that somebody does the same stuff because I feel like this is just me. Like, there's no way that other people are walking around with this stuff. And I feel like I never got that, like, validation, like that yeah, like, I mean, people say you're not alone, but, like, to actually see it and hear it and feel it is a whole different thing. Like, it is so incredibly healing. You get so much awareness in the program, right? And you're like, "Okay, like, there are a lot of shifts," right? And a lot of things that I'm doing that, like, I need to do differently. And that can be really confronting, like you said, and really hard work to then go through all of that and be like, okay, like a lot of this is like stuff that I'm in control of and stuff that I can change and that I can work on. So, going through the program, you said, right, like you're starting to feel these shifts, like you're starting to feel like anxiety is maybe lessening, showing up differently, like you're responding differently. So, after the 10 weeks, because I'm always curious, like, some people, of course, when you start the program, you're like, okay, in 10 weeks, I'm going to be like healed. I'm going to be all better. Or it's like the thing that you said at the beginning, right? Like, this is it. This is the year. So, like, when the 10 weeks ended, how are you actually feeling? Because I think people have so many different experiences. And I always say, like, at the beginning of the program, we talk about this and we talk about healthy expectations. Like, you cannot just expect yourself to be healed in 10 weeks. Like, that is not realistic or helpful and is just going to add pressure. But I'm just curious, like, how did you feel after the 10 weeks and like when we were starting to wrap up?
I remember as it was coming up, I was scared because I was like, "This has come to be a big part of my life. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with it when it's over." One of the best things that happened for me was how much it started to feel like a background, like, it just stopped becoming such a big focus for me, and that was such a relief. Like, I was so shocked when I would come out of situations sometimes and be like, "I didn't even think about it." And that
Yeah.
was the biggest gift, like, to not be thinking about it and feel like I was actually present, and I'd feel this huge amount of gratitude. And then I didn't feel like I was healed, of course, but I had this faith of, like, if I keep taking this same approach, it is gonna happen. Removing that pressure from myself really helped. A lot of my anxiety sparked around death. Like, when it got really, really bad was when someone really close to me died, and then a few weeks ago, I had someone pass in my life, and I kind of hit I hit the wall a little bit, really started to sort of I remember I went out to a restaurant, hadn't had that feeling for a couple of months, and was so upset that it happened again, and then I was like, "Oh, well, that's it." And then I came home and read my notes,
Yes.
so I still keep them all in this file, went back and read it, everything, because I found myself starting to slip into that, "Okay, what do I do now?" And I was like, "Okay, you know all this," like, and I keep thinking 10 years, maybe even a lot longer than that, it's gonna take a long time for me to shift some of those things, and I know that I just have to keep coming back again and again to those basic kind of principles.
Yeah. But it's also like I always tell people, right? Like you do a lot of this healing work and the hard part is life doesn't stop, right? You're going to have good stress, you're going to have bad stress, you're going to have loss, you're going to have really hard stuff. And it's going to cause you in these moments to experience anxiety. And that makes sense. Like, right? Anxiety as an emotion is that protector. So it's like, hey, I feel like you're needing some of me right now. And so when we experience stuff like this, I know we can quickly go to that place of like, oh shit, and now I'm feeling anxiety and like this is bad. But it's like, wait, slow down. Like, this is a place, situation, time where it makes sense for it to pop up. And like, my only job is to allow myself to feel it and to have this experience and to not create the stories about it and to not right, go into that doing mode that I call it the "oh shit" mode. It's like, no, 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 no. We know that's not gonna be helpful. So I'm so happy to hear you say, like, I knew, no, 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 like, go look at your notes, Louise. Like, we do not need to go to that place where we're like then trying to fix what we're feeling because the feelings make so much sense.
That's it, and it's like sometimes, that whole thing of tuning into what you actually need has
Yep.
been a big part of it for me, and I think, again, that's gonna take a lot of redoing and learning. I'm like, "Okay, you actually just need to rest. You need to
Yep.
take a break, go for a walk, do something different other than fixating on what's wrong and trying to fix it." I do have that confidence. Like, I lose it every now and then, but I do keep coming back to it. Yeah.
Oh god, we all do. It's like you can never have this like unwavering this steady, I should say, this constant confidence and like peace and calm because like we're human beings, that's not realistic. But I love what you were sharing of like some of these things, right, have started to fade into the background and the less attention, right, and the less doing and the more you practice all the things that you learned, it's like it does allow these things to continue to fade and it does take that repetition, right? I always say like the things that I learned, I continue to practice. I've practiced ever since I've recovered because I know I am never going back there. Like that shit is never happening again. And I mean, I could see like going through all these events that I've been through recently of like separation, divorce, co-parenting, all this stuff, I kind of had these moments of like, it would make sense if I started to have some panic. But I'm so grateful that I haven't because it's like all of these things, there are things that are lifelong that, yeah, it's not going to be this daily, like, I have to do XYZ in order to stay on this path and in order to prevent myself from going back there. No, no, no. It's just like this consistent, I have to support myself. I have to check in with myself. I have to allow myself to feel. I have to allow myself to get support. Like all those things are basics that you're going to need for the rest of your life and are things that we all need. And it's not this, I have to do these things so that I don't feel. No, I have to do these things, right, to take care of myself. Like that's going to be a lifelong thing. But all of it will fade into the background but you will have moments because we all have creative human brains, and sometimes you'll be, like, years recovered, and you'll have this thought pop in, and you're like, "What? I haven't heard you in a long time, like, what are you doing here?" But it's like you don't give it that time of day, you don't give it that attention, so things will continue to fade into the background, but I know it's even hard being at the point that you're at to, like, believe, "I'm not ever gonna have these thoughts again, like, I'm never gonna have these sensations," like, they will completely fade, but it's so hard to believe that. Like, I know. I would say to my mom, like, no, 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 like I'm always gonna struggle with this. Like these two things I'm always gonna struggle with. And like I don't anymore. And it's crazy. But so it's like no amount of convincing. You can't tell yourself like you'll get to that place. Like you just have to keep doing the work. And you're doing it. And it's so beautiful.
And the attitude to your thoughts is so important, and that's one of the big things that I learned. So, I've had a couple of things recently that I knew were gonna be big triggers for me, and I did it put a lot into when the thoughts would come in of going like, "Okay, thanks for trying to protect me, but I don't need you right now, and I know I'm gonna have to keep doing that, but God, it helps." And I think that when you start feeling like you're putting those sort of building blocks in of confidence and building trust in yourself, you see the kind of healing happening. I've had a couple of things in the last couple of months where I'm like, I would never ever have been able to do this without really freaking out. Like, okay, my heart was racing and I was nervous because who wouldn't be nervous in this situation, but I would have this it just wouldn't tip over into that next kind of catastrophe kind of feeling of like, this is a disaster. And I would feel present. And like I said, I would just walk out of that situation and be like, I cannot believe that I did that. And I had that experience a few times early on in the program, and it would just make me feel like 10 feet tall of I can't believe I did that. And I felt okay. And I felt like I was there and I let myself be nervous and just not go to that next stage.
I'm so glad that you're doing that reflecting because that is so important that you're actually recognizing like the progress and the stuff that's happening because you do like, and even to put it into perspective of like, shit, this has only been months, right? And like this has been something I've been carrying for decades. So it's like incredible when you can look at it that way and you're like, okay, I have made a ton of progress and have felt a lot of relief. And how much more work could I do, right? In the next 6 months to be in a totally different place from where I am now. Like it's just, it's wild when you think about it and do that reflecting. Like reflecting is so helpful.
I think the biggest piece of this for me has been understanding that I was doing it. But you were able to create that understanding in such a lovely, compassionate way
Mhm.
that it's not about self-blame, it's just about, like, "This makes sense, but yes, your reactions are kind of keeping this going," and when you really understand that, that is the piece that helps you get better because it's like, if I'm creating this, I actually can do something about this. I remember having a session once where I said something that I'd done, and you just looked at me and were like, "I'm really proud of you," and I was like, "I've never," you do not get that, like, you just don't.
Yeah, well, it's like because nobody's usually you've hit it, right? Nobody really even knows what it is that you're struggling with, and when you're taking, like, these steps and doing these things, it's not like you're gonna have somebody there being like, "Whoa, I can't believe you just did that." Like, you wouldn't have done that weeks ago or months ago, like, I'm so proud of you for doing that, and when you slow down and you become that for yourself, it's so incredibly confidence building, motivating, builds that self-trust, that safety, and, like, allows you to do more stuff. It's like it's so cool.
Yeah, and you see the evidence. I'm like, "Well, I did that." I got up and spoke in front of 100 people a couple of months ago. It was fucking terrifying, but I did it. And so it's that evidence thing of like, I did that. Why couldn't I do something like that again? Why couldn't I go and do this thing? Yeah, hugely rewarding.
I can't emphasize it enough. I feel like the things that and I see this in my community and running Panic to Peace, of course, because we have the community and Panic to Peace, but I see this so often of like, oh, I just did this, or like I did this small thing today, or I had this small win. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, are you delusional? Like, that is nothing about that small. Like, everything about that screams, holy shit, like, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, you've got to allow yourself to have those moments. Like, I always think of now being a parent, it's really helpful but like how much little kids like thrive off of that validation that like I'm so proud of you like that. I mean they love that. We're the same way, like we need that same stuff. I don't care that we're grown ass adults, like we need that too. And oftentimes you're not going to get that outside of yourself. especially if you're hiding things. So it's like you really got to build that within yourself. And it's just so beautiful when you do. But I am so dang proud of you because you've done so much good work. And like being in Australia, knowing that like you wouldn't be able to make a lot of the calls, you still committed, like you really committed to yourself. And it's, of course, paying off incredibly. So I'm so happy that you came on the podcast and were vulnerable and shared your story. And I'm just curious if somebody's like on the fence or they're like, I don't know, I've tried so much. This is like just another thing, right? Or I'm afraid like it's not actually going to be helpful. What would you say to that person?
So I would say I had thought I have tried everything. I'll give it a go. But then as soon as I started, I was like, right, you just have to. It sounds really simple, but I was like, you actually have to throw yourself into this and believe that it's going to work so that you know that you really have given it a try. But that feeling kind of went away pretty quickly because I felt, I don't know, something about seeing all these people in the group. I was like, these people are just like me. Like, we're all very different. We all have incredibly different personalities. It's showing up for us in different ways. We're all at different kind of places, but I could really see, I was like, this is a group of people that are just really fucking hard on themselves. And that seeing that in other people made help me see it in myself. And that
Yeah.
was really helpful.
Yeah. We often do need that, like, because we don't want to shine the light on ourselves. But
No, and I was like, these are all amazing people, like, and I really liked them. I really, it's that I felt compassion for them, and that helped me see myself in a different way.
yeah. Ugh, it's so beautiful. I know I always say, like, if I could just be friends with so many of my students, it would be great. Cause, like, oh my God, I look at all these people and I do stay connected with a lot of my students, and I've met some of them like in person. And it's just like, dang it. Like, we have so much in common and we're just really cool people. And I just wish like we could create this group. But of course, people are like, "Well, do something in person, Shannon." I'm like, oh, yeah. It's like that easy. I'm like, someday I will.
Do it,
Someday
I'll
I
get on
will.
a plane, I'll come.
Oh, I would freaking love it. Like, it would be so good. But yeah, I just appreciate you so much coming on and sharing your experience and your journey and being vulnerable and just giving like the words of wisdom that you've given. It will be so, so incredibly helpful. So thank you. And just like you've got this. You don't need any any more information, any more things. Like, you're good.
I don't even know how to thank you, I guess, for what I've gotten out of it. Like, it has really changed things for me, and like I say, I never thought I would be where I am, and I don't think I would have gotten here without doing the
Aw.
program. So
Well, you owe it to yourself. I always tell people, like, this is you. This like I have so much gratitude, of course, for where I've been and how I've been able to help other people, but I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I can't do the work for you, right? And like, I can give you the guidance and I can give you the support, but like, you've got to commit and you've got to show up. And like, you did that. And that's the students where I really see them thrive, is like they committed. And even if they felt like this is just another thing and maybe this won't work, and like, I don't know, like they still committed, and like it really does pay off. So I'm just super proud of you, and we'll stay connected. And thank you again so much for coming on.
thank you.
I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.